This is your stimulus package update for Thursday, November 19, 2020. As always, we at Stimulus Review urge our country's leaders to act in regards to stimulus. The American people are suffering loss of life and our economy is failing, yet the leaders of this country have made little effort to invest our resources in crushing this virus. Here is a recent video on the effects this virus is happening in the U.S.
Across much of the country, as you know, Sanjay, the pandemic is far worse than the situation in New York City right now. And we're nearing, take a look at this, 250,000 deaths since the start of the pandemic in January. 249,935, just 65 deaths short of 250,000. If you take a look at the average testing positivity rate in some of the worst effective states, it's, 30, 40? Look at these numbers. In South Dakota, it's 56% positivity rate. In these other states, 40, 45, 51. It's really awful.
Yeah, and Wolf, this gives you a real clear idea of just how disparate the response is around the country. So we're talking about New York closing schools because of 3% positivity rate. South Dakota, 56% positivity rate. It's like this two different places entirely in terms of how people are responding to this. You know, we would always, Wolf, you and I would always compare the United States to South Korea because the pandemic began in South Korea and the United States the same day. Patients were diagnosed the same day in both places. And everyone always said, well, South Korea, is that a really good example because there are only 50 million people? Well, Wolf, let me show you South Korea compared to North and South Dakota. Since we're talking about these places in particular. South Korea, when you talk about total confirmed deaths throughout this pandemic, South Korea is actually less now than South Dakota or North Dakota when it comes to total confirmed deaths. Can you believe that? That one country is lower than these two states, which have population close to 1 million. So it's not even close how bad even isolated states have become compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah, when South Korea, as you correctly point out, a country of 50 million people, when they had maybe 20 or 30 deaths, the U.S. maybe had 5 or 10, and now we have almost 250,000 deaths, and they have maybe 500 deaths all these months. They knew what they were doing, how to control the contact tracing and all of that. Right. And unfortunately, we didn't even have a national plan to deal with this, and we're paying that huge price. Sanjay, thank you very, very much, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping us appreciate what's going on. Let's bring in the New Jersey Governor, Phil Murphy, right now. Governor Murphy, I know you got a lot going on. Thanks for taking a few moments to update our viewers here in the U.S. and around the world. Let me get your reaction to the news that your next-door neighbor in New York City, they're shutting down classrooms because of a spike in the coronavirus cases. New Jersey is also experiencing a worsening spike in new cases. At what point, Governor, would you consider a complete shutdown on in-person learning?
Good to be with you, first of all, and we are experiencing a spike. We're up over 4,000 cases a day regularly, over 2,000 in our hospitals. It's not without risk. It's not without cases, but our school experience so far has been much better than any of us could have anticipated. 50-something in-school transmissions. That doesn't count what may come in from the outside, but impacting, say, a couple of hundred people. That's cumulatively over now 2.5 months. We oversee, by comparison, over 3,000 buildings. So you've got 50-something out of over 3,000. So far, so good. We also have different models, Wolf. We've got hundreds of school districts. So we've got some in person, some hybrid, some remote, and that combination is something I think we'll be with for a while.
Coronavirus 19 cases have passed the 11 million mark in the United States, according to Johns Hopkins University. On Monday, the drug company Moderna announced a vaccine that's 94.5% effective against the virus, and early results and new lockdowns to help slow the spread are being considered across the country. Meanwhile, the final string of economic protections will run out by December 31st unless serious negotiations pick up and another stimulus package passes before then. The White House appears to have backed away from its $1.9 trillion pre-election proposal, which did not see GOP support. The top-ranking Democratic and Republican lawmakers, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, respectively, have reportedly not spoken about the stimulus, Yet top leaders across the spectrum have been calling for more aid, including President-elect Joe Biden and President Donald Trump. On Saturday, Trump tweeted support for a new stimulus bill that is both large and focused, a seeming contradiction. With both sides of the aisle at odds, there's not a big chance of getting a new stimulus bill passed before Biden's inauguration on January 20th. By contrast, Biden has laid out a plan to address the effects of the coronavirus pandemic on the U.S. economy, starting with the Coronavirus 19 Task Force and a new set of strategies that complement a similar plan Biden released during his presidential campaign. The CARES Act, passed in March, was the first stimulus package intended to help people financially affected by the pandemic. One of the most popular aspects of the act was a stimulus check of up to $1,200 sent out to more than 160 million Americans. That direct aid caused a jump in household spending, helped millions at risk of slipping into poverty and allowed others to save. Biden's plan, like the one Trump has backed, will include more direct stimulus payments, but it doesn't specify how many or for how much, or if any of the qualifications would change. Democrats and Republicans are currently negotiating for more stimulus relief that would include another round of direct payments, but the clock is ticking to get a bill passed. Coronavirus-19 lockdowns across cities led to an unprecedented spike in unemployment, with more than 20 million people having lost their jobs back in May. To help those unemployed suddenly, the CARES Act provided a weekly bonus payment of $600 on top of unemployment benefits provided by the states. These extra funds expired at the end of July, and Trump restarted a smaller version of the bonus in August via an executive memo. This temporary relief provided $300 extra for 6 weeks and has since been exhausted. Only a new stimulus package would provide more funds. Here's every benefit that dries up if the stimulus isn't renewed. Biden's plan doesn't go into specifics about how much funding may be available. It does say a bill would improve unemployment benefits. There were no measures to boost Social Security in the CARES Act or in other relief packages since then. Biden's stimulus plan calls for an additional $200 to be added to the monthly payments that go to Social Security recipients. Included in the CARES Act was a forbearance for student loans. Individuals who owed money wouldn't need to make payments or see any interest accrue until the end of September, according to Biden's stimulus vision. If implemented in the future, there would, of course, be a different cutoff date. Back in August, Trump extended the forbearance until the end of 2020. Biden's plan goes a different direction by offering a loan forgiveness of a $10,000 minimum. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, a Democrat and former presidential candidate, outlined a plan to forgive the federal student loan debt back in September. The time is now to act in regards to stimulus for our leadership. I do expect the congressional and presidential bodies to act as we move off into the holiday season. Please like and subscribe at the bottom of the page. Once again we thank you for your time and attention. Have a good day.